In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about histograms, what they are, and how to create one. We're going to start by taking a look at what a histogram looks like, and we're going to go over a few of the important parts that we need to learn about it. At first glance, when we look at this histogram, you might be thinking, well, this looks like a bar graph. Oh, I know what a bar graph is, Mr. Peterson. I know how to do this. This is simple. It's not the same. Let's take a look again. We got our graph title, tree heights. They labeled their y-axis or the vertical axis. They have labeled their horizontal axis or the x-axis. But this is where things change. On the bottom of our graph, you can see that there are ranges of numbers, and that's important to remember, ranges of numbers. So here we can see kind of the differences between a bar graph and histogram. The bar graph, on one hand, it has gaps in between each of the categories that it has. And if we look at the histogram, there's no gaps. They line up right next to each other. You can see at the bottom here, this graphic highlights the difference here. We have number ranges, and we'll get into what that exactly means in a little bit. Let's just focus on this one range of numbers between 150 and 200 centimeters tall. Remember that we're talking about the heights of trees. So when we talk about a number range, let's get into what that exactly means. So we are focused on the number range between 150 and 200. So if I had a tree that was 178 centimeters tall, would it fall between this range? Well, is it bigger than 150? Yes. Is it smaller than 200? Yes. So that would mean that the 178 centimeter tree would fall into this collection box on our histogram, and we would have then one tree that would be here. Now, let's say I had a tree that was 195 centimeters tall. Does it fall into the same range? Is it bigger than 150? Yeah. Is it smaller than 200? Yeah. It's still going to go into this same collection box with that 178 centimeter tree. Both of these things would exist right here. And by right here, I mean in this box of the histogram. What I'm about to tell you is one of the most important things and maybe one of the most crucial things to remember about creating a histogram. It's when a number maybe falls right on one of those lines. Or I should say maybe one of those data ranges. For example, what if we had a tree that was exactly 150 centimeters tall? Or 200 centimeters tall? They fall directly on that line again. If a number falls directly on one of those lines, it always goes in the data collection box to the right. So let's take a look at what that means. So if I had that tree that was 150 centimeters tall, it would fall between the range of 150 and 200. If I had a tree that was 200 centimeters tall exactly, it would fall between the range of 200 and 250. And this would continue for the rest of our histogram. A tree that is 250 centimeters tall, it would fall between the range of 250 and 300. Now, I always like to go to like some crazy example. So let's say a tree is 199.999 centimeters tall. Where would that fall? Now, if we take a look at our histogram, we have the number 199.999, or 199 and 999 thousandths. Where would this number fall? Well, is it bigger than 100? Yes. Is it bigger than 150? Yes. Is it bigger than 200? It's really close to 200, but is it bigger? No. So that would mean that it has to fall in which range? If you said between 150 centimeters and 200 centimeters, you would be absolutely correct. Now we are going to go over how you can create your own histogram from a set of data. For my histogram, we are going to be asking the question of what is the average height of a student in Mr. Peterson's class in inches? And here are some responses that I have generated for that question. Remember, one of the first things that we do with the data set that's going to make it easier for me is I'm going to place these in order from least to greatest. So now I have my numbers in numerical order from least to greatest, and now I am going to determine how big or what my number ranges are going to be for my histogram. Oftentimes, many people will go with a range of 5, so I'm going to demonstrate that here. I can't start at 50 because I have numbers that are smaller than that, so I'm going to start at 45. So here's the chart that I have created for myself. You can see it's a little bit funny. You might be thinking, well, you didn't go up by 5 every single time, Mr. Peterson. You went from 45 to 49. These numbers on the left-hand side here are really going to be those dividing lines on our histogram. If you see, there is a difference of 5 between all of these numbers. 45 to 50, that's a difference of 5. 50 to 55, it's a difference of 5. You can do the same thing with the other numbers. 49 to 54, it's a difference of 5. So I am looking for all numbers between 45 to 49. We have 2 of them, both 48 and 49 would go in here, so I'll put 2 tally marks in here. 1, 2. How many of them between 50, 54? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Between 55 and 59, well, let's see here. 1, 2 of them. My voice cracked, that's fine. And how many are between 60 and 64? Well, there's only 2 left, right? I don't know who's 6 feet tall, but they're taller than me. We are now ready to draw our histogram. We start with just a straight line. We add our number ranges to the bottom of our histogram. We always make sure to label all of our axes, and in this case, we're labeling our x-axis, which is the height in inches. Then we are going to add our numbers or our frequency of the data on the left-hand side. We're going to make sure to label our y-axis or our vertical axis, which is in this case the number of students. And then, of course, make sure that we put a label or a title to our graph. In this case, the student height in Mr. Peterson's class. In order to finish creating our histogram, we're going to go back to that frequency chart that we created in the last step, and we're going to look between 45 and 49. We had 2 students, so let's go ahead and put that onto our histogram. Between 45 and 49, we're going to be in here, and we had 2 students. And there you go. We can fill that in if we really want to. You can leave it blank. It's really up to you. Depends how creative you are. Back over to our frequency chart. We had 6 students that were between 50 inches tall and 54 inches. So let's go back to our histogram. 50 inches to 54 inches would fall right in between this range. And we had 6 students. All right, there you are. Let's go and handle these last 2 at the same time. 2 students between 50 and 59, and 2 students between 60 and 64 inches. And there we have it, a completed histogram. It's not colorful or beautiful, but it is a histogram that shows the data that we collected.